I've been meaning to do this particular podcast for some time, and here we go, here it is. This particular podcast is about you perhaps being labelled as the toxic person and ostracised, I guess, as people would say, as the black sheep of the family. And sometimes you're used as a bit of a scapegoat by certain individuals. And I'm sure we could all relate to this in some particular aspect of our lives. You know, whether it's from your youth, whether it's in adulthood, whether it's late adulthood, we have individuals that unfortunately ostracize, criticize, and put us into particular brackets. And often it's because it takes away attention from that particular individual and what they've actually done and not yourself. Sometimes we're sort of labelled as the bad guy, as I keep calling it, the good, the bad, the ugly, going back to the Clint Eastwood film. But in this particular realm or in this particular aspect, it's not that simple. It seems to be a case of you are persecuted and you are haunted and you are tracked down. And there are aspects of trauma that are involved with this particular scenario. It's not as easy and cutthroat as you think it's going to be. So let's look at particular scenarios. Evidently, quite a lot of individuals who have, say, for example, committed a crime, come out of prison, or have been within the prison system, often find it extremely hard to rehabilitate because society doesn't always necessarily help them to rehabilitate completely, because there's always that judgmental society and there's that judgmental aspect of the people that are around us, where if you've broken trust, for example, it's a very hard thing to earn back. Sometimes if you've obviously done something even more serious, maybe you've murdered someone, killed someone, whatever the particular crime will be, it is very, very hard to earn your trust back within that community. And obviously those particular scenarios, we can, as a human being, relate to that, we can understand that. The scenario I'm talking about, though, is where there are no actual physical crimes that have been committed. It's a matter of your word against another individual's, and you might have been cast out of that community, of that family network, for various reasons. There's not just going to be one particular scenario. There's going to be numerous scenarios. And sometimes what they do is, because you're not conforming and because you're not adapting and because you're not applying yourself to be within that particular herd, to use that particular metaphor, you're actually outside of it. You're, somebody who perhaps is forward thinking, perhaps you're not listening to the conventions, perhaps you're choosing not to follow the conventions, and you are someone who is an individual and someone who is, loves self. And I don't mean it in an egotistical manner. I mean somebody who has boundaries, somebody has rules, somebody has compassion with others, and that doesn't go with the rest of the flock. Okay, and these things cause tension and these things cause friction, and eventually what happens is that unfortunately you end up being the outsider. There'll be one particular ringleader that you'll probably be aware of within that community who basically decides who stays within that group and who's the outsider, and who is the one that's in harmony and who's in disharmony. And often, obviously, they intermingle, and often there will be this, resonation of this going forward where you are outcast. Okay? Some individuals like this idea of being outcast and being out on the edge because it allows them to be liberated, it allows them to have this freedom, and it allows them to have this sense of self-worth and self-being. However, some individuals make it extremely difficult for that person to move forward in their life because all they do is provide, toxicity. And a lot of these individuals that are causing that particular scenario are narcissistic. They're ego-centered, they have their own particular agenda, but to the other individual, it's not that clear to see. And often this individual be ostracized and, used as a bit of a scapegoat. And I'm sorry to use the term black sheep of the family. It's a coin term that we're sort of moving away from now. with the way things are going in 2020. But some individuals don't particularly like being in that particular predicament. They don't like being labelled as such. And the thing is that within this community, within this society, you will have individuals labelling you as someone that we should not look up to, someone that we should not admire, someone that we should not aspire to be like, you know. And it's very hard to be part of that community and part of that realm, because unfortunately, as in most communities, there will always be the gossip mongers, and there'll always be the people that know things or claim they know things about your particular life when that in fact isn't the reality, you know. So sometimes, you know, we have that saying, don't we? Sticks in the stone may break my bones, but your words will never hurt me. Well, actually they do, you know. And this community, when you are not part of it and you are an outsider for this community, and you're not within it, they will do everything they can to alienate you and ostracize you, and like I said, keep you outside of those boundaries. And it can be extremely frustrating, and it can be extremely painful and hurtful, because at times it's family members that are causing that pain in the first place. You know, they're part of the circus parade, and they allow this to happen. You know, they allow these individuals to continue to harass and to berate and to, you know, basically put you down and belittle you. And it's all based on lies. The elder in that pack, or the elder in the community, will know quite clearly what is going on and what is happening and what the real truth actually is about certain individuals. Now, culturally, sometimes these things get crossed in particular wires in the particular communities, and at times these particular individuals enjoy the fact that this person is no longer part of our community anymore because of this, and this, you know. So if I was to give you an example, even though some communities have changed over time, but it could be such things like, you know, maybe you've married someone out of your particular culture. Maybe you are in a relationship with someone that they don't deem as appropriate because of the different culture, the different religion. It could be the different gender. It could be that you have decided to go and be intrepid and move and travel, or just basically be independent and have financial, stability yourself, and they make stories about you. It could be that you have a scenario where you have left your home and you have moved forward. You've left because maybe there was friction within the household, but the stories that the community come up with are utter nonsense. You know, utter nonsense. But the sad part is, the real sad part is that these stories stick. And that's the bit that concerns me. And that's the bit that I personally have experience with, because it's happened to me. And unbeknownst to myself, certain individuals have made up some horrendous stories that have stuck for a long time. And despite the fact that clearly and evidently these stories are not true, the society that you are part of, or the culture that you are part of, keeps believing it. And like I said, there are times when an elder can break that particular scenario, you know, and they can say to the individuals, hold on a minute, I got it wrong. Hold on a minute, that's not actually quite true. And, you know, the judgment that I based, the chastising that I based was actually not fair. And, you know, I hold my hands up, and I wronged this individual. This individual can't do that, you know, and you continue to be ostracized and you continue to be outcast, all based on this one person's perception of truth, you know, which actually is based on lies. So it's hard to try and get yourself back within that particular culture and family, because you try desperately to go back, you know, and you try desperately to be accepted by your family or your community, and you can't. because they are still casting stones, as we say. They're still holding on to the past and holding on to things that aren't necessarily true. And for a lot of individuals, it can be very, very painful to be aware of the fact that you've got individuals going out of their way to cause you pain and to cause you hurt. And it's quite disheartening and it's quite heartbreaking when you sit back and you realise that these people are actually meant to be your family as well. So it's not something that it's a complete stranger, that's made up these particular web of lies. It's actually someone that might even be blood connected, and for a lot of us, it's very difficult to admit that this other individual has done us wrong. And we can feel extremely bereft and we can feel extremely upset that this scenario is not correct. And we try very, very hard to clear our name and to be accepted within that community. And often you find yourself dealing with individuals that you realise there's no point in wasting your energy and your breath, because you get to a point where you understand that, they are part of a little circus clown, and someone is the ringleader, someone is this particular responsibility, someone are the animals, and all of this is for show, and all of this is for entertainment. And you get to a point where you realise you don't actually want to be part of that, because part of that community are happy labelling individuals and keeping them within their particular boxes, and that boxes are constraints, to be fair. They're constraints that you and I wouldn't necessarily want to be part of, All of us will have our own aspect and viewpoint of religion and or faith or spirituality, whatever it is that you believe in, yeah? And, sometimes they will throw those particular phrases in your face as well. And these aren't necessarily helpful things either. I'm sure we can relate to having somebody say to us that we should be chastised because of this particular religious belief and this particular religious phrase or chapter or whatever it is. And it is extremely hard to move forward in your life. And like I said to you, this is something I have personally got experience with, and I'm still struggling with it. I don't have the right answers to everything, because it's something, I guess, you have to walk through. All I know is, personally for me, and anyone else who's out there who can relate to this, is that you just have to keep living your life the best way that you can. Even though you're trying your hardest to clear your name or to be accepted, you get to a point in your life when you realise, the person that's looking back at me in the mirror, am I happy with them? Yes or no? If I'm not, then I need to make some changes. Am I okay with the person that I am sharing my life with and my family and the people around me? Am I doing things that I need to modify and adjust and change for the better? Is it going to make me a better person, for example? If those questions come back, where you're saying, yeah, this is part of me that I really need to change, then yeah, you need to address those particular scenarios. And without being egotistical, if there's parts of you that you know full well that you haven't done anything wrong, then you probably haven't. It's the society that's around you that is labelling and ostracising and putting you in particular labels, and people are quite happy doing that, because all the while they make you the enemy, it takes attention away from the person who's labelled you in the first place. And sometimes we have to take a step back and think, well, what do they actually gain by doing that? Is it power? Is it ego? Is it the fact that they are seen as like a bit of a martyr, I guess? They might be seen as like a religious figure that other people look up to, Is it because they're narcissistic, egotistical? There's various labels, isn't there, that these people can put themselves under. And I guess we have to stand back and think to ourselves, what is it that they're gaining and what is it that I am not in control of? The more you sort of step away, the more you realise, you don't need to be clearing your name. There are times when you just have to seriously just take a step back and walk away. There are times when you can be polite, and you can be someone who is trying their very hardest to be someone who is polite within that community, and you understand the dynamics. But at the same time, it can be extremely frustrating to be on the outside as well, and it takes a lot also to forgive this person. You might not be able to forget, but you might be able to, or you might not. And again, each of us are going to be very, very different in how we deal with that. There is no clear-cut answer to this, guys, I'm afraid. Some of it isn't resolved overnight, if I'm honest with you. As I said, I'm still struggling, and it's been years, and I'm still trying to work it out. I'm not saying I have all the answers to everything that I'm discussing with this particular topic, because it's one of those things that you have to live through, and it's something that you try your best to go through, and you try your best to understand, and you try your best to eliminate and to alleviate the pain that you have. And sometimes, these particular people are happy keeping you in that particular place. Even recently, when I was giving similar advice to someone who'd gone through a similar situation as to what I'm describing to you, they got to the point where they had to cut their parents and their siblings out of their lives because they realised it was just toxic, and it wasn't doing them any good to be labelled as being mad, I guess, even though this person clearly isn't. And this is what I mean. When we don't conform, when we don't change, when we don't adapt, because that person that's in control wants us kept, wants us kept in a particular place, wants us kept in a particular hierarchy, wants us kept in a particular position. And if you are kept, in secret, I guess, if you are kept hidden by people, if you are kept isolated by people, then the other individual is at an advantage, clearly, because they're able to say things about you and you can't defend yourself. And you get to a point, like I said, there are times when you think to yourself, is this something I need to battle? Is this something that I just need to work on? Is this something that I can control? And a lot of the times you can't. Unfortunately, it's out of your control. Okay? The only way to deal with it sometimes is, like I said, be the stronger individual. Be that individual that is not wanting to be part of this clown and this circus, scenario, because we are better than that. But at the time, we don't necessarily see that. That's the hard bit. It takes steps. It takes baby steps to either walk away or to just realise to yourself that, I don't want to be part of this scenario. I don't want to be part of this situation where these people are making my lives extremely uncomfortable. And why should I be trying to fit in when I'm trying to be the one that should be standing out? And often at times you're the one who's the leader. You're the one who's actually leading by example. And sometimes these people are afraid as well. They're afraid of going against society and going against the ringleader, as I've described to you already. So often, you are ostracized and you are put in a sort of corner or situation because, people don't want to be liberated, I guess, or to be free as you are, So therefore, there are going to be individuals who don't necessarily see the way things you see them, and it doesn't hurt to take a step back, and it doesn't hurt to move forward and to move on with your life. We don't have to be conforming all the time. Sometimes it's good to be someone who's a revolutionary person and someone who takes risks and is intrepid, and often at times, like I said, in certain scenarios, there are individuals who will make you the scapegoat purely because you're doing something unconventional that they don't approve of. And often, that leads to the conflict that I've described. It is hurtful and it is painful when it is family members or close friends that you consider to be like family that are ostracizing and calling you out. And as I said, this is something that isn't resolved overnight. If anybody is on that particular, journey, I admire you, because this is not easy at all to go through. And it's painful in the sense that, you just want to be accepted, and you just want to be loved, and you want to be part of that family or friendship community. And it's not always going to be like that, anyone who's dealing with that, I pray for you, and I keep you in my thoughts, and I keep you in my prayers. And maybe one day I'll find the answers myself, and if I do, I'll update you in a podcast. But in the meantime, if that is you and you are relating to this, just keep your spirits high, keep yourself motivated, keep yourself active, and don't let people grind you down. Easier said than done. Very easy said than done. And sometimes these people do win, and sometimes they lose. And that's what we have to look back at. Just keep thinking to yourself, am I the right person? Am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing for me personally? And if you're not, make those changes. It starts with you. But don't let other individuals dictate what should be happening in your particular viewpoint in your life. You should be doing what you want. And if that means that you're the outsider, start looking at the positives. Start looking at the fact that you might be revolutionary instead of the person that's considered to be, an outsider. God bless. Take care. Bye for now.